Good day, everyone, and welcome to our virtual in-service training 2021 for public school teachers. Praying and wishing that every one of us is in good health, especially that we are now facing a challenge that changed almost everything, the COVID-19. The pandemic has positive and negative effect to us. Positive in the sense that we were able to enhance our skills and competence. Before, we were having this training in a face-to-face setup, but now, we are now having our in-service training virtually. It's a proof that teachers are flexible enough to adjust in a given situation in order for us to be aligned to the new normal. Well, so much for that. This time, allow me to say thank you to our host, Teacher Marichelle Padillo, for the introduction. To give you a clear picture of our topic for today's session, my task is to give you the terminal objective. At the end of the session, all learners will be able to craft adjusted curriculum implementation matrix based on the CIGPs of Quarter 1 and Quarter 2. And here are enabling objectives. Identify and discuss the elements of curriculum implementation matrix. Create a positive attitude in making curriculum implementation matrix. And foster a proactive response in crafting adjusted curriculum matrix to provide better academic services to the learners. That will be our objectives for this session. Once again, this is Teacher Marichelle B. Avenido, Subject Group Head of PE Senior High School Department, and for the introductory activity, I will give the virtual floor to Teacher Amelda Mira Bontilao.
Once again, good day everyone. I am Teacher Amelda Mira Golosino Bontilao, Subject Group Head of EBM Senior High School Department. How do you feel right now? How do you feel after the presentation of the objectives? Okay, whatever feeling you have right now, I will make you relax and smile through this video. I have here a short video for you to watch to give you some glimpse of our topic. Let's all watch the video.
Problema pas kwarta, problema pas kinabuhi. Sao naman jud oy. Isa kay makatabang na corona, mais na nga makatabang gid. Time pa, basi si Mama Region, makatabang siguro na ako. Isa may akong istoryahan ani oy. Ay, ako.
Uy, Mami Lani! Good morning, Mami Lani!
Morning, Ma'am.
Uy, good morning! Ano ba ka? Kabuntag sa iyo. Grabe nga mo magul. Ano magkakaayo? Uy! Saan may mag-isakyan?
Motor.
Ay, suswa mo sa teleline service ko eh. Motor naman dyan si... Kailang, kasi may problema na to. Uy, kabuntag sa iyo. Grabe man yung ko. Na, mga magikabitayan o kaliro na yung mukhang... No! Saan may problema niyo?
Oy, nadyo ko akong problema.
Diri. Mag-istorya tao sa mga dyan na yung mukhang... Kada ko na yung mukhang problema ba? Uy!
O kahit balo na kung sa problema, daghan kayo.
Sulti ko na mong problema. Uy! Gawa sa kwarta kay murag nihit kong kwarta ron.
Parihar bitaw tani nito kwarta.
Dili, ay mag-istorya ka. Asa ba dyan mga problema sa ba? Asa ba yung trabaho sa
Ay gahapon, checking ko sa mga papel, nag-record pa yun.
Pangayon pa dyan ako
Glass.
Oo, dyan. Si mga kamil gano'n, naningin po na ito itong class program, teacher program, naghanap po na ito.
Wow, lagi. Usa rin mo hato, no?
Yawa, si Mang Sara. Ang sayo po ko, otro na po.
Mao, good ma'am. Saan man ito di mamarin sa
Mao naman dyan yung kinabang sa maestra, ma'am.
Mausad, no?
Sa kanon ba, sa may problema ni mo, uy?
Una, Jud, akong problema, ma'am. Manilala, Jud. Marta. Nagagay-kukutan mo.
Niya, gawas ano ay, kusang tingin kwarta, uy. Pero kung hinihita, ang suot sa pitaka piso, ang pudi.
Oh, benching ko snabos lang yun.
Ay, Ay, nak, mas pobre pa dyan ka.
Mas pobre jud kayo. Mga pagmotor o platan jud. Maglakaw.
Maglakaw dyan. Iyan na lang. Isa mo dyan yung problema ni mo ba?
Hindi ako naku jud kay kong problema.
Basta mo.
Mahitungod ni sa week 2 nga competencies, wa pa jud ko na nagjud ko pag-ayo. Week mo quarter 3 na lang. Pa jud ko na human akong quarter 2 competencies.
Usap mo din mo competence di ay. Hindi nga
Bawat
itaw
lagi
ko na.
21st century literature, wa jud ko ka human lagi. Sabi ang katabang nako, Marits.
Isa yun na lang, ma'am. Sa wala din nga na, una dyan din mo, diba? Sa ka-quartiran, imong ipon kung pila ka competency. Nga, imo na siya i-divide. Imong i-divide ba? Nga imo hang i-divide yun mo matag simana. Diba? Pila man ka simana sa usa ka quarter.
Walo?
Oo, walo. Tanda, walo. So, imo na i-divide. I-divide na nimo ang competency ba para wala siya, imo hang buhaton. Kaya wala ka malang.
Mao lagi.
Kung nalang ka karon sa sikang quarter, na kumagal di ka third quarter. Dili, sige putag ka lang.
Mao lagi po. So ikaw siya nakatabang na ko Marits. So sulbad aning problema ha nga nalago na competencies quarter 2.
Oo, so muna mong buhaton karon. Ipunin mo, ipunin mo pila ka simana o sa quarteran. So, para imo ma-divide.
Mausad no?
Nya karon. Okay na ta.
Murag arang-arang na jud akong pamati ng Marits.
Sige.
Daghang salamat sa imong kuan.
Oh, mo ana to siya.
Magulawanong ideya.
Oh, ato nila kay daghan ka daghan buhaton dito.
Uy,
Kay
na?
karon ba? Ano po kuan punta karon kay mag-prepare na punta para sa observe na to in town.
Mao lagi ang live observation pa jud.
Oo, malagi. Ay,
So nakanda plan.
ay daw. Wa ka lagi. Magbuhat.
Ang magbuhat ng nagtagdungan.
Oo, sige. Wato na ta.
Oh, tara. Sige. Salamat kayo sa imong tabang ha.
Salamat kay Mamila niyo. Ay, problema na tayo sa tinabang ay ra jud ta.
Okay, thank you Ma'am Melanie and Ma'am Marina for the nice video. Based on the video presented, let me ask you some questions. 1. What is curriculum matrix? 2. What is the use of the curriculum implementation matrix? 3. What are the elements of the curriculum implementation matrix or CIM? And 4th, why is it important to learn or apply curriculum implementation matrix, especially in these times or new normal? You're given 10 minutes to answer the analysis question. All this question will be answered once you will listen attentively to our short discussion. Without further delay, I will turn over the virtual floor to our lead facilitator, our co-teacher, Teacher Irene.
Good morning, everyone, and once again, welcome to our in-service training for the school year 2020-2021. Thank you so much, Teacher Marijol, Teacher Amelda, and also Teacher Shello. So I will be your first facilitator for this 5 days in-service training. So our topic for this session will be curriculum implementation matrix. So I'm sure mostly of us here are familiar with this topic, CIM, because we're using this one since after our NSET last May 2019. But for the newly hired teacher, I'm sure this is new to you, curriculum implementation matrix, but I assure you that this topic is beneficial and helpful to you, especially in implementing our curriculum. Okay, so before we will move on, let us take first tackle what is our legal basis for this CIM. So this topic is being anchored to the PPST Module 7, page 19. The title of this module is Plan, Manage, and Implement Developmentally Sequenced Teaching and Learning Processes to meet curriculum requirements through various teaching contents. So
This is the title for the Module 7 of the PPST. And inside this module, it is being stated there that the curriculum guide, as mentioned before, should dictate the competencies and standard of learning to be set in a given lesson or teaching learning encounter. So it is a must that the teacher reviews or familiarize himself or herself with how the curriculum works to meet teaching and learning requirements. So, as we plan and manage and implement developmentally sequenced lesson, the use of curriculum guide, or as of this time, we are provided with MILCs by our department, and the teacher's guide and the learner's material would make the teachers adhere to the requirements of learning area and the curriculum at large. So as teacher, as being stated here in Module 7 of this PPST, we should not be afraid of modifying or changing what has been planned in terms of instruction. So we are given the authority that we can modify and we can change. But we should always bear in mind that we cannot delete any competency in our CG or MELCs because CG and MELC is not negotiable. We should have to follow what is being stated, but we can modify and we can change. We can add some competencies. Okay, so versatility also is needed in effectively delivering the lesson, and it requires the teacher to be sensitive to their learner's need during the fulfillment of the teaching and learning process. So, as teacher, we should always remember that the learners will not have the same pacing or level of learning. So that is why we have here a curriculum implementation matrix. That is why we should learn how to make this one, because this tool can help us in adjusting our curriculum implementation matrix for the implementation. Okay, so we should always be careful with observing. We should be always careful and observe the minor but important details in planning, management, and implementation of the lesson. So, we should be careful with the time allotment for every learning competency that is found or being illustrated in our curriculum guide. So again, that was the legal basis of our CIM that is found on Module 7 of our PPST, page 19. So this time, let us review first what is curriculum implementation. So curriculum implementation means putting into practice the written curriculum that has been designed in the curriculum guides provided by the Department of Education. So it is a process wherein the learners acquire the planned or intended knowledge, the skills and attitudes that are aimed at enabling the same learners to function effectively in the society. So as teachers, most especially during this new normal, we should be skillful enough in adjusting, in making any modification in line with the implementation of our curriculum, because we are the one enabling our students or learners to function effectively in our society. So let us now learn what is curriculum implementation matrix. Curriculum implementation matrix is a customizable tool that you can use to augment any textbook or curriculum that you are currently using in your classroom. So as of this time, we have no face-to-face, so we can use this CIM we can use the CIM in making adjustment to the implementation of our curriculum. So when does we can use this CIM? So since we are using the modular distance learning modality in our school, so it should be that after checking the answer sheets of our students, after checking the outputs of our students, if we found out that not 75% of our students were not able to accomplish the desired competency for that week, so therefore, we need to adjust our curriculum implementation by using our curriculum implementation matrix. We cannot proceed to the next competency if the desired competency for that week is not accomplished. So as teachers, we should have to think critically and we should be process driven so that there will be no student left behind. If we will just think critically and follow and we are process driven, I'm sure we have no student that will fail in our subject. So that is a curriculum implementation matrix. So this time, let us now learn the elements of curriculum implementation matrix. So in our school, we are using this format. These are the elements of the CIM. The first one is the content standard, followed by the performance standard, the week number, days, learning competency, content, the code, and remarks. So let us take up this one by one. So for the content standard define only the core elements of education that should apply to all students without regard to their specific career and academic plans. Every student is expected to achieve goals that are broader than those outlined by the standard. So, it defines only the core element of education. So, kung sa Tagalog pa, this is ang kabuuhang dapat matutunan sa ating mga estudyante. Yan po ay tinatawag natin na content standard. This describes the knowledge and skills that students should attain. And this is often called the what of what students should know and be able to do. So that is what we call as content standard. And don't you worry, my dear co-teachers, because the content standard can be copied from our curriculum guide. So here is the sample. Here is a sample curriculum guide, and this is where we can find the content standard. It is found at the second column of our curriculum guide. So now let's proceed to the performance standard. Performance standard defines level of work that demonstrate achievement of standard. This provides clear expectation for instruction, assessment, and student at work. This will help teachers assess the extent to which students have acquired the knowledge and apply the skills learned. So this will determine of what specific performance that our student should acquire after learning the content of our lesson. Okay, this is a sample. This is the illustration on where we can find our performance standard. In our curriculum guide, it is found on third column. Next, let us go now to the week number. So the week number indicates the specific week of the month for the delivery of the specific learning competency or competencies. So if we are going to prepare CIM for week 1, for the column of week number, of course, we need to indicate there number 1. So it means we are preparing that one. We are preparing that CIM intended for week 1. Okay, so let us now move on to the days. The days, this will indicate the specific day of the week for the delivery of specific learning competency or competencies. So, we need to assign each competency the number of days that is intended for that specific competency to be delivered. For example, for the day 1, so we need to indicate 1. For the day 2, we need to indicate 2, and so on and so forth. And then let's move on now to learning competencies. Learning competencies according to DepEd refer to the knowledge, understanding, skills and attitudes that students need to demonstrate in every lesson and or learning activity. So that is learning competency. Competency also is defined as something you need to be able to do well in a specific job or role. So that is a specific skill or learning that you need to accomplish so that you can perform a certain role. That is competency. So in our curriculum guide, it is found in the fourth column. The learning competencies are being enumerated. So if we're going to make a CIM, all we have to do is just simply copy the competencies intended for that week and for that day. So don't you worry. After our discussion for the elements of this curriculum implementation matrix, I will show you how to make a curriculum implementation matrix. So let's go now to the content. The term content knowledge refers to the body of knowledge and information that teachers teach and that students are expected to learn in a given subject or content area, such as English language arts, mathematics, science, or social studies. So this is the content. To be specific, this is the topic. This is the topic of our lesson. That is what we call as content. So in our CG, the first column, we can find the content. So we need also to select what specific content that will correspond also to the specific competency to be delivered on that particular day or week. Okay, let's go now to the code. So code, it indicates learning area and strand or a subject or specialization, the grade level, the domain, the content, component, or the topic. And it also indicates the quarter number, the week number, and also the competency. So ano po ba ang kagamitan ng learning code sa ating curriculum guide? So dahil napaka-broad po ng ating mga learning competency o learning competencies na nakalagay sa ating CG, ginawa po yan ng mga code para po ma-decongest ang nasasabing objective o magiging specific ang nasabing objective sa isang learning competency. It is where in code that we can see kung ilang araw po ba natin dapat ituro ang ating competency na makikita sa ating kanya-kanyang curriculum guide o sa ating mga most essential learning competencies na binigay sa ating departamento. So this is now the sample of our competency code, which is also found in our CG. So here we have here the legend, and we have here also the sample, and we have also a definition of terms here so that we can comprehend what is how to read competency code. Next, for the last element of our CIM, let us move on to remarks. In remarks column, here we are going to indicate whether our lesson was carried or not carried. So this will determine if we need to reteach or we need to move on to the next competency. So we need to indicate there if our lesson is carried or not carried. So those are the elements of the CIM or Curriculum Implementation Matrix. So the content standard, the performance standard, and then next one is we have here performance standard, the week number, the days, and then learning competency, the content, the code, and the last one is the remarks. So hopefully you learned something about the elements of the curriculum implementation matrix, and hopefully also that you are given a glimpse on how to make a curriculum implementation matrix. So this time, let us do a rapid competency assessment. I know we are now in our own home. I'm sure maybe you have a copy, a soft copy, or a hard copy of your curriculum guide or MELCs. So this time, let us now try to check our curriculum guide or MELCs, and then let us try to count the number of competencies in each quarter of our CG or MELCs. We need to count it. So just count the number of competencies and then write it down. And after that one, let us try to examine if the number of competencies to be taught that is found in our CG and MELCs equal to the intended number of days for that certain quarter. Shall we say, for example, for quarter 3, we are given 8 weeks for quarter 3. So let us try to examine if the number of competencies found in our CG or MELCs can be delivered for just 8 weeks. So if we have much or more than competencies, more than the number of allotted days for the third quarter, or if we have less than number of competencies compared to the intended number of days for that certain quarter, so here comes that we need to use the CIM, that we need to implement CIM. We need to make and use our curriculum implementation matrix. So what you are going to do if you have more competencies compared to the intended number of days for that certain quarter is that you need to fuse some competencies. Which do you think pwede po siyang makuha sa isang competency lamang, pwede silang pagsamahin. Pero kapag kulang naman yung competency natin for the intended number of days for a certain quarter, as teacher, we should always remember, as stated in PPST Module 7, page 19, that we should not be afraid in making modification and enhancing in the implementation of our curriculum. So we can add more competencies. What is not allowed is to delete competencies. So we can add competencies to our subject. So we are allowed to add competency. Why? Because this competency can be beneficial to our student. This can scaffold their learning. So it can be that you will add prior or after the competency that is found in our CG or MEL. Okay, so I have here a sample to you on how we are going to create a scene. So this is a sample about food and beverage for the TVL for the senior high. So we have here the content standard, and here also we have the performance standard. So here I just simply copied the content standard. The learner demonstrates understanding on promoting food and beverage products. So I just simply copied it here. And the next, for the performance standard, I just also simply copied from here the performance standard. So I just simply copied it here. And for the week, I indicate here week 1 because this CIM is intended for week 1. And for the day, I have here day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. And for the learning competency, I simply also copied here from my CG. So I assigned it learning competency 1 for the day 1, learning competency 2 for the day 2, and learning competency 3 for day 3, and so on. And for the content, I just also simply copied here from my CG the content from the first column of our CG and assigned it to the specific number of days. Okay, for day 1, I assigned past and current trends in food and beverage. And next, for the code, I just also simply copy from my CG the code. So it can be that every day you will copy the code, but also pwede mo din itong burahing mga linya ito, tapos isang code lang ang ilalagay mo. Tapos sa remarks naman, ang ilagay po natin dyan, kapag 75% of our student meet or accomplish the desired competency, so we need to put it here, carried. Pero kapag hindi naman po lahat or not 75% of our student meet the desired or accomplish the desired competency, so we need to adjust our lesson. We need to adjust our CIM. So that is why starting this third quarter of this school year, we are required to prepare CIM every other 2 weeks. So that after checking the outputs of the students, after checking their answer sheets, so we can adjust our CIM. So that is the reason why we need to make a CIM. Okay, so this is a sample for the CIM for the TVL. Don't you worry, you are provided with different sample. And this is also the curriculum guide. This CIM is a sample for Filipino 8 for ikatlong markahan. And we have here also Araling Panlipunan 7 for the fourth quarter. And here also we have sample CIM from the MAPE. This is fourth quarter also. Okay, so since we're done with the elements of the curriculum implementation matrix, so this time let us have our workshop. As I said during the introduction of my session, I will not give you an activity which is difficult to accomplish. So this is a very simple activity. So what we are going to do is just simply we are going to craft a curriculum implementation matrix of the subjects that we handled. Okay, so we need to craft a curriculum implementation matrix individually. So we need to prepare an adjusted CIM for the subjects that we handled for quarter 3, which is good only for 2 weeks. So again, we're going to prepare only good for 2 weeks. Why? Because we are going to make adjustment if there are some learning competency that was not or that were not accomplished by our learners during that particular week. We are not allowed or we are encouraged to make learning catch-up plan for our students if our students were not able to accomplish the desired competency for that particular week. So that is why we're only advised or encouraged to prepare just for 2 weeks of this curriculum implementation matrix of the subjects that we handled for this third quarter. Okay, and then for our outputs will be turned into our Google Classroom.
Okay, so for the concluding activity of this session, let me read to you a short story. This short story titled A Dream House. So there was a story about an architect who was retiring from a prestigious company. The president of the company asked him to build a dream house, an obra maestra, a showcase for his talent and know-how. Money was not to be a problem. And so the architect started the project. But as he went on, he started on skimping materials. Although the house looked beautiful on the outside, quality and safety were compromised. Finally, the house was finished. On the day of its inauguration, the president of the company announced that the house was to be the company's parting gift to the architect. So that's end the story. And for the moral lesson of this story, it is when I fool others, it is myself that I fold. So, my dear co-teachers, in line to our topic, we should be dedicated enough in implementing our curriculum. In that way, we are enabling our learners to be an effective citizens of our country.
At this time, allow me to say thank you to everybody for being with us since the start of this session until the end. Once again, I am your co-teacher, Irene Mundin-Gamit, together with my co-facilitator, Marijol Avenido, and also teacher Amelda Mera Buntilaw, hoping and wishing that you learn something from our discussion which is beneficial to our profession. Everyone, we are wishing you all safety and good health always. To God be the glory always. Goodbye, everyone. God bless.